Welcome back to the DJ Sessions, where we feature the best DJs, producers, and industry professionals from around the world. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in all the way from Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, we have Vinny Ribas. How you doing today, Vinny?
I am awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I kind of want to be chilling back in your virtual studio right now on that couch, and sitting back, but we're doing the Zoom thing and it's awesome. We can connect and thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I definitely want to give our DJ Sessions viewers a little bit of information about you. You are the founder and CEO of Indie Connect, and you've been in the industry for about 55 years. And you also just started something called Cartney. So I'm going to leave the floor to you a little bit to decide where you want to start. Do you want to go Indie Connect or do you want to go Cartney?
Well, I think I would start with Indie Connect because it led up to Cartney. Basically, in 2009, I had just moved to Nashville. I'd been here about a year, wasn't plugged into the music industry, wanted to get plugged in. I was running networking events for other businesses, and I had a lot of musicians coming. So one day I said to them, why don't we get together once a week and just talk music business? And so the first week I had 5 people. The next week I had 10. The next week I had 30. And I always brought a speaker in, had one of my friends just talk about their job and everything. Before long, I had 6 of them going every single week all around Nashville. And so, it wasn't designed to make money and it was very time consuming. So I cut back a lot of that, but that's how I kind of built a huge network with all these speakers. The speakers are coming out of the woodwork. They're coming from the labels. They were former major label artists who are just coming in to connect with people. And sometimes it's like, I just got let go from my label. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to market myself. I've never had to do that. And so and I wasn't the expert. I had actually been out of the industry for quite a while, for about 20 years. And in my past, I've been a booking agent. I've been a manager. I was a full-time artist. I was the entertainment director for Nevada State Fair. When you're old, you get to do a whole bunch of stuff, which is fun. It's always fun. But, I wanted these new experts, to bring them in and to learn from them and find out what's going on in the industry right now, and especially in Nashville. And it was just amazing because of the fact that I did not go in there with an agenda. They were, like I said, they were coming out of the woodwork. They'd come in and share everything, and we'd go out for coffee afterwards. And I built a huge network that way. And so it's been, like I said, since 2009. And I cut back a lot on the live events. I've done a lot of Zoom events and everything. I still am a networking fool. I do a lot on LinkedIn, but I love people and I love teaching. I've coached over 1,000 artists with Indie Connect. And so I felt like I had a lot to share. And, but what I found in leading into Cartney is that I found most artists have the exact same questions all the time. It's, every single one of them they have the same struggle. So they have the same questions. How do I license, get my music license to film and TV? How do I protect my name? How do I protect my songs? How do I, negotiate with a booking agent or with how do I get a manager? All this kind of stuff. So I decided, since I had this huge network of people that were in the industry, and I've heard these questions over and over again, that I would put together a program that would answer all of these questions. And so that's exactly what we're building. And we're also building into it a whole section on scams and ripoffs that affects the industry at every single level. Just as warnings, that before you do this, before you hire a producer for the first time, this is what you need to know about what should happen and what shouldn't happen. And we think it's going to be kind of, I call it like the WebMD meets Masterclass for the music industry.
And I think that is so phenomenal, because one of the biggest things, I have said this growing up in Seattle and watching the rise of, the alternative music boom happen here, or, just watching the music industry as a whole, or even the music and arts community as a whole, having no middle management here or no management. And because the management, usually you bring them on and they're the educated ones that know how to
Right.
do all of that stuff that you just kind of mentioned and
Right.
more. And unfortunately, it's just because, you try to do a management here and the bands don't have money, or they're all working, 40-hour-a-week jobs and they might be playing a gig. And at that gig,
Right.
they might be getting $150 or $250.
Right.
And for somebody to manage that and take 10% commission, or as a booking agent, you're going to be spending 4 to 10 hours, maybe setting up a booking for them and walk away with, $50 or $100.
Right.
And then the band isn't getting a cut of anything. So, there just isn't any middle management here, and there weren't any real resources for people to go to. And I see this a lot in the electronic music world, more so that I've been more ingrained in that over the last 13, 15 years,
Right.
that, the DJs that used to play, they would book clubs, but unless they went to a market like LA or New York or somewhere, Chicago or somewhere bigger, where they might be able to get into a bigger club and make those bigger connections, that management just wasn't here looking at talent to pull them from Seattle. Because why pull them from Seattle and book them in LA when they can book, there's a million people in LA, they can book in the same caliber, and just say, oh, you want to come in as a local here? They aren't looking to import that talent. So, seeing a Seattle talent get the opportunity to become big and maybe get on a big stage in front of tens or 15, 20, 30,000 people over and over again, and then still watch them not manage their career, of having the right connections within that to play the circuit and start becoming a very big name.
Right.
Very far and few between has made it out of our market. I mean, the number of DJs I've seen over the last 30 years, I could maybe count them on my hands, and that's just sad, because if this resource existed, or a management team existed here, it could help foster and develop that growth.
Right.
It sounds like that's kind of exactly what Cartney and Indie Connect would kind of do.
A lot of it is, for Indie Connect, I mean, that's what I do. I consult with artists and I help them to figure out what that path is that can make them money. What can they do with what they're, within their realm of their talents, their skills and everything, what paths are there out there that can make them money? And what I find is that most artists just don't know what's available to them. It's really frustrating, but they just don't know. And so they don't think about, if it's a DJ, I could be on the college circuit. I don't have to be a draw. They just need people who are great entertainers. If I can be a great entertainer, and so, I mean, it's that kind of thinking that we need to get people to know about. They got to get that critical thinking and to figure out, okay, if Seattle's not the right place for me, or I can't do enough here and nobody from New York's going to bring me in, where else, what other kind of markets can I go to? And when you start thinking about, there's military tours and sports tours and all these other opportunities that are out there, fairs and festivals. Festivals are a little different because they don't really pay if you don't have a draw, but state fairs and stuff like that, if you're doing clean, of course, it depends on what the content that you're doing, but that has to be clean content. But there are a lot of different circuits and a lot of different venues that don't require that you be a draw. They just require somebody who's a great entertainer.
And one of the things I loved when I went to Indie Connect is it's kind of pretty easily laid out. Is I went to the artist management section. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the artist management, because I try to, as much as I can at the DJ sessions, work with our resident DJs and build our brand. I'm not their manager. I'm kind of a PR. I'm kind of a promoter, but we do a lot of online events, and we're getting into that physical event realm here. We're going to start throwing our silent concerts, but that's still us booking internally. And while it helps add a bullet point to their resume, or something they say, I did this, or I opened for this, the real management of their career is something that I don't have the bandwidth to do.
Right.
I kind of tell a lot of them when they sign on board, I go, look, I'm the executive producer of the show. I'm not your cheerleader. I have a certain list of qualifications you have to do to be on the show to meet those requirements. I think I've set it up to be very easy for them to attain that. I have a point system so we can track and make sure, so I can say, this is why you're not happening, because you didn't make your points. And I make it really easy. But again, I don't have the ability to be an artist manager, which is why maybe we should hire you to come in and manage our team. It sounds like a good idea.
No problem.
Yeah. But I mean, it's very interesting to, You're right. I love the fact that you talked about, and I've told people kind of about this. A lot of younger people want the glory of the industry, and they don't want to play. They don't understand the college circuit. They don't even. I mean, I remember when I was in community college, and we went down from Seattle, Washington, to Portland, Oregon, to a big event where they brought in all these performers, DJs, bands, comedians,
That's it.
Song, everyone, and you auditioned in front of like 30 different community colleges. And then at the end, you each had a booth, and the kids would walk around and say, "We'd like to book you. We'd like to book you. We'd like to book you." And they'd walk out of that event alone with like 20 gigs. And it's like, whoa, I just made, whoa. And you could do college. That was just in the Pacific Northwest, in Washington State.
Right.
Maybe like Washington State and Portland, like coming together. And that can be done in multiple markets. And then, that was just one that I've actually witnessed firsthand, watching artists take that into their hands. And once you if you're in it for the glory, okay, you're going after that top 1%. But just getting to that college circuit can help you get to that glory. Can help you get a fan base.
That's it. That's how you get your fan base.
Yeah.
Not everybody's gonna go viral on social media. Yep. And nowadays social media is fine, but it's very shot in the dark, kind of thing. And a lot of times it's flash in the pan, because you might get a viral hit and then it's gone. What the longevity comes from actually being in front of the fans and building that relationship with them and getting to know them and them getting to know you. And so by doing the college circuit or, the fair circuit, just like with colleges, there's the NACA conventions that are all around the country. That's exactly what you're talking about. Those are the showcases. That's what they're for. Well, there are fair associations. Pretty much every state either has their own or they belong to a group. Like on the West Coast, there's Western Fairs Association. I was the entertainment director for the Nevada State Fair. So I would go to this, and it was fairs from Oregon, California, Arizona. I mean, all the 8 Western states. But the whole thing was based on this showcase, these huge showcases of all the entertainment. And that's what everybody was striving for. And it doesn't matter what kind of market you're in, most of those kind of gigs there are some kind of convention to go to. The theaters have conventions if you want to do theaters. The rodeos have convention. I mean, there's no limit to it, and so there are a lot of opportunities. Does it cost? Yes, it's going to cost you money to go to the NACA convention and especially the showcase. But you get paid enough from 1 or 2 gigs to pay the whole thing back. Yeah. So if you've got any confidence in what you're doing, that's an easy way to fill your calendar.
Absolutely. Now, here's something for you on Indie Connect as well. You also do coaching. Right. As well. Tell us about the coaching service, because that is kind of different than obviously artist management.
Right. Well,
or is it kind of one and the same?
Well, they go together, because the management side, I'm actually in charge of their careers. I'm helping, and the way I look at management, it's got 3 parts to it. My job is to help figure out where they want to go and then put the strategy together for that. How are we going to get there? And sometimes it's a matter of giving them other options from what they are planning, but the end goal is here. This is where you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, whatever. And on a personal level, on a business level, this is where you want to be. So these are the things we need to put in place. In the second piece is then implementing the strategy. So that's putting the team together and all that, everything, the publicity, getting that going, whether it's finding a publicist or doing it internally or having interns do it. We just figure out how we're going to get that, the marketing done, the recording done, everything like that. And then the third part on the management side is very much life coaching. Because if you're managing a young artist or a new artist, you're doing a good job with them, you're putting them into situations that are new to them. They're going to be uncomfortable. They got to stretch. I mean, that's what you want them to do. You want them to stretch. And so the first time you put them in front of 5,000 people might be really scary, but you've got to talk them through it. The first time that they have a breakup, with their girlfriend or boyfriend or something, and you got to talk them through that. I've dealt with, a management client who had Lyme's disease and had to go through that. I've had them go through deaths in the family. it's just, you're dealing with life situations, and as the manager, you have to help with that and help negotiate that whole thing. As a consultant, my job, the way I feel, is I'm not everybody's manager. I can't be, and I'm not right for everybody, but I can help them put all the things in place that get them ready for the right manager, for the right booking agent, for the right team. And so that's kind of my role. It's like, okay, if you want to attract a booking agent, you need to have a promo video. You need to have an EPK. You need to have this and this and this in place. And you definitely got to get better pictures and update your website and that kind of stuff. If you want to attract a manager, you need this and this and this in place. And it's not rocket science, but the implementation of that, people get overwhelmed unless they have somebody that they can be accountable to. That you're just saying, this is what needs to be done, and these are the steps that we're going to take in the order that we're going to take them. And so,
yeah. What happens when somebody comes to you and they say, I have all that, and how can you help me? I have all that. I've been doing all that. Do you hit that kind of roadblock or that growing pain or that pain point that I know it all, I don't need your help, but you really look at them and go, that's exactly why you need my help?
Yeah, I do. And, a lot of times what they don't realize, and this is just what I have to point out, is you may have it, but it's not right for what you're looking for. So, and I'll just give you an example. You may have a great promo video, but you want to go to the college circuit, and your promo video is not in front of a younger crowd. It's not showing a college audience that's getting into what you're doing. So no booking agent is going to look at that and say, oh, this is perfect, because a booking agent has to look at it and say, I can sell this, piece of cake. All I got to do is call up my contacts and send them an email and say, here, you got to have this act. Mm-hmm. And it's done. And so, you can make the job a lot easier for a booking agent. You can make the job a lot easier for a publicist, for your social media people. You can definitely make it a whole lot easier for somebody to want to manage you. There's got to be something there to manage. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're making money already. That's, it helps, but a good manager is not going to take money off of stuff that you've already booked. They're looking at what they can do. How can they up level you? And so, but they need to see that you're doing something on your own. I get more calls from people who just want management, who have never done a gig and think that a manager is going to book them. And I mean, there's a lot of confusion about the industry, thus Cartney. And it's like, let's get all of these basics down, study this, and know, and when I say study, I mean, it's going to be 700 videos minimum. That's what we've got slated. You've already done yours. So I appreciate that. But it's, by answering all the basic questions and then getting into all the different genres of music. So how does electronic music differ from Americana music when you're going to market yourself, when you're producing your act, when you're, with the videos that you put together, all of that kind of stuff. Hopefully we'll be able to give people a guideline. This just follow this. It's never going to replace an actual coach, because everything has to be tailored to you. Mm-hmm. In your path is, I can't map out every single path, and I don't have a way of saying, okay, because of what you do, this is exactly what you should do, because everybody's going to be different. And I just finished interviewing a Christian rap artist, and we talked about the pushback from the rap industry, and some things are just so individualized that it's really, the basics that we're putting together in these videos aren't going to work. But if you want to know how to protect yourself, you want to know how to get your copyrights done, you want to know what kind of licenses you need, you want to know where all your money should be coming from, where you can create residual income, that's what we're going to be teaching. That's what I teach in the coaching program. But I can't reach enough people one-on-one. There's just not enough hours in the day. Yeah. So.
And this isn't just focused on, adult careers. You also do consulting for parents of teens Absolutely. And young children as well, which is phenomenal, because, a lot of parents are now seeing, I have a friend of mine and her son keeps coming up saying, Mom, I'm 11 years old. I want to be a YouTube star. I want to be a YouTube star. My other friend her son loved TikTok videos. I want to be TikTok. It's like, okay, you're going down a big road here, a big wide open road here, but you do offer that consulting for parents as well. And that's kind of awesome starting young.
What I find is that a lot of parents get ripped off very easily because they don't know the industry. And so they either lead the kids down the wrong path, or it could be as simple as they go in to buy their kid a guitar and they're saying, well, you need this guitar and this guitar and this pedal and this amplifier. And, the parents are like, well, if I need it, I need it, because they don't know. And so, that's why I think it's really critical that we educate the parents who have talented children and to get them to know that there is a path that is safe for the kids. There is a path that is legal and you can take a lot of the struggle and hardship out of it if you just know some basics. You just put these few things, these building blocks in place. And I think that will help a lot of people that way, of all ages. I mean, we're going to go from the parents of the young kids to the people who are retiring after 40 years in the workforce and want to go back into music, or they've been touring for years and now they want to go into artist management, but they don't know enough about the business. They only know what they did. So, I mean, we'll be able to educate everybody. It's going to be quite comprehensive.
It reminds me when I was 8 years old. I believe I was 8 years old, and somehow I got picked to be a model in our local mall. Modeling at the local mall. I don't know if they found us or they approached us. Somehow I got picked to model. And then obviously the modeling school wanted us to pay to be, to train me to model. And I remember looking at it and my mom was like, nah. And after years of doing that, I ended up owning a casting agency in 2004. I purchased an extras casting agency, kind of got a little more inside in depth. I knew most of the background in the industry, but realized it wasn't necessarily a scam, but it was kind of like a daycare for kids who wanted to think they could be a model, and they'd get, you got to get comp cards. And I mean, they did have a pattern. It was going down, but to really be cast, the parents and people that were coming in, this wasn't LA. This wasn't like anyone had an agent or a management or a firm or anyone they could really go to fact check this. There was no internet. So who are you going to call and say, hey, is this school really something for my kid? I think you probably remember Barbizon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that was one of the more prominent ones that was out there. And, taking our casting agency to more of a digital format instead of, us doing our job. You see the casting, you got the websites where you submit all your stuff online now, and then they'll pick and say, this is who we want. Whereas when I owned the casting agency, we had to physically go and pick up all the comp cards, all the headshot cards from all the 10 different agencies, bring them to the casting director, sit down. Casting director would go through all of them, give us the comp cards back, and then we'd have to go and contact all the agents, say this is who they want. Oh, what a headache. But I mean, some of those agencies that we're working with were the professional agencies. We weren't working with the lower ones. But in the 80s, we didn't have anything like that. I mean, I was 1982. Didn't have anywhere to prevent my parents from being scammed, I guess.
Right. And there's still plenty of those out there, whether it's a modeling agency or it's, there's all kinds of people who make big promises. And, the biggest challenge is, now you can vet them, which is good, but they don't vet who signs up. As long as you're willing to pay, you're in the program, and they're just going to stroke your ego. And so you do have to know what to look for. You have to know what should be in your agreement and what shouldn't be in your agreement. You have to know what kind of rights you're signing away, what kind of control you're signing away. You've got to know, what the promises that they're making are, and are they actually realistic? Have people actually achieved that? Because for so many people, it's such an ego-driven business, and they don't think about the business side of it. They think about the ego side of it, and that's what people prey into. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. It really doesn't matter, because there's people that are scamming artists at every single level, and thinking that we can provide you with the next best thing. There are managers or coaches out there that are charging thousands and thousands of dollars that can't do anything for you. I just did a great talk on vocal coaches, on how vocal coaches rip off their students. I never thought of it before, but by prolonging the lessons longer than they need to be, or by faking their own credentials, and so you're thinking that you're paying for somebody that's better than they actually are. I mean, just a whole bunch of, it's everywhere.
It's funny, you bring up that pain, and sometimes I have artists, because they just don't know how the industry works. Like when we release our content on our site, we're doing production. We are doing video production. We're doing streaming. We're doing marketing. We have costs and everything that goes associated with that. And most people don't know the cost of production. So on our site, when a DJ signs up and it says, okay, there's 2 ways you can distribute this. One, you can use the free method and use our links. Share our links. That's free. But if you want a licensed copy for $75 that you can go and put to your platforms, or that's going to cost you $75, because now we're giving you an actual physical copy and you can go put that out there. And we're licensing that to you, because if you go out there and do something wrong in the world, we maybe don't want to be associated with you. We're going to revoke that license back. So take that content down. That wasn't right. We don't agree with your views and principles, and that's not the direction we want to be associated with.
Right.
And you'll be amazed at how do I put this in the nicest way possible?
How many people balk?
No, yeah. How many people think that you're charging me to perform on your show? I go, well, do you want me to charge you for production services and studio time and what it really costs for that hour of production that I'm doing for you? And on top of that, you can just use the free link. They don't know how to read what that says. They only read, I'm paying you to play on your show. And I used to charge DJs $50 for studio time to play on my show. $50, and they get a video. I'd make them a podcast that was their own podcast, and leave it up and promote it. And even then they were like, I don't pay to play. And I get there's that whole battle of pay to play. They weren't paying to play. You were paying for studio time.
Right.
And that understanding that, wow, I get it. And the value, I would have to go spend $20,000 and then spend 20 years in the game to understand what Darren does. And I'm paying him $50 an hour to help him produce this show that I'm on and help cover the costs, which was never actually covering the costs of the show.
Right. It won't. There's no way. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, that's the biggest challenge is people, especially artistic people, don't have that business mind. They don't think about it from a business perspective. What they're thinking about is, for me to make that $75, I've got to go and spend 4 hours at a gig, and I got to fight to get the gig. And so I understand the battle, but it is a matter of understanding, when is it legit to pay for something, when is it not legit, and a little bit of research will tell you if you're getting something physical, that you can use, that you can brand as yours, then there's value to that. And so, they're not paying to be on your show. They're paying to have this. And so, and I see it all the time. And there are people that, do charge for you to be on their podcast, and you don't get anything. And I stay away from that completely, unless it's a really big podcast and it just makes sense. But they got 200 listeners, but they're trying to pay for Podbean. No.
I'm laughing because I know how much it costs to run a Podbean account. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you have to get a valuation in there, but and I get it. When we started out in broadcast television, our shows were going on at 1:30 in the morning, and we had 15,000 viewers in Seattle. And, but our production costs of really producing a broadcast network television show for 30 minutes or 22 and a half minutes, we were looking at probably about, I think it was like 15 grand per episode. And that was low. That was for a local show, no name actors, no name brand, just production costs alone. And it's like, wait a second, at 15,000, if we got $10 for every 1,000 people, which is his usual CPM, we could really only charge about $150 for every 30-second commercial spot. And we had 8 minutes. We had 16 of those. So we couldn't raise enough money doing it. And so we sold our sponsorships that you're sponsoring the production of the show.
Right.
You're not buying commercial advertising on the show. And we kind of went that route. And of course, we wanted to get the show bigger and get it syndicated. And then we could start bringing in the bigger sponsors, being in more markets. But nobody told me how to do that. I mean, there was nowhere for me to go to. When I sat down with the vice president of West Coast operations for Fox, and in 2005, and he said, how did you get 8 separate television shows approved on 12 network stations on the West Coast? He goes, that's what I do for a living. I got That 70s Show and I got Malcolm in the Middle approved on all these stations. And you got 8 separate television shows approved, all under the ITV brand. And I just looked at him, I said, I picked up the phone. Like, I didn't read a book on how to do this. There was nowhere to go. The internet didn't say, here's how you get your television show distributed. I mean, the first and foremost is make a pilot, submit it to the studios. And then you got to realize they can steal my idea. I mean, it was like, whoa, wild, wild west out there. And then the opportunity, the internet came through and we could start distributing online and controlling our own brand and doing our own thing. But there was no playbook, really on how to do that, or everyone said, do the studio route. With that being said, it sounds like, we're looking at Cartney now. It's going to be that resource of the go-to, and that is phenomenal. That's going to help so many people. I think it's so many levels. I don't know if it's just the music level, or even if you were going to be like, if I was going to be a producer of a show and I needed to know all of this side of the business, and you're going to have videos talking about music industry videos, music industry careers, the scam and ripoff warnings,
absolutely,
and the music genre videos. I mean, I just tap on the music industry videos alone, and I'm looking at all of these topics that are going to be covered. Artist development, band management. I guess it goes, I could go in alphabetical order, but I mean, this is huge. I could see a podcaster or live streamer taking a look at this and being all this could really kind of apply to that, which is just awesome. And I'm super excited when this launches, and thank you for having me on as a guest.
Absolutely.
These topics on this.
I
we'll
think
talk a little bit after the show about some stuff about this, but I mean, after all of this, once it's up and running, will it be updated? Or I mean, currently, will there be? I mean, so many questions you're answering here. Then is it like, okay, this is videos here. Are you going to go through once a year and maybe re-update with new professionals, or once every 2 years, or how industry shifts? How does that work?
We're going to go through every video every 6 months to see how accurate it is.
Okay.
And if we have to redo it, or if we have to add something, then we will. And so we want it to be that kind of resource, because that's the challenge with like YouTube. You can go and find out this information, but you got to search like crazy for it. And I can show you a link of what the site's actually going to look like on an actual page, where you've got the videos there. The videos are separated by chapters. You've got just the audio. You've got the whole transcript there. So, and no matter how you learn, you can, you'll be able to go through it. And so, we will keep updating it. And every time I do a recording, we've done 40 interviews so far. And, we have over 700 slated, but every time I do one, they bring up more questions. It's like, oh, got to write that down. Got to do that. It'll never, ever, ever end. Never.
Well,
and
I couldn't see it ever ending, especially in the growing age of now. We're getting into virtual reality, augmented reality, and those industries, and what performance is going to look like there, instead of just traditional, I'm in front of the camera, or I'm a musician performing in a nightclub. We're talking about getting performers to perform in our virtual reality nightclubs. Absolutely. And I mean, is it the same kind of contract, same kind of deal? And this is a very budding technology. Few places, I mean, you have these huge concerts being done in Fortnite with major live streaming artists, and they have tens of thousands of people going in. But that's like saying Google sponsored that, or Amazon sponsored that, or Meta sponsored that. They got the bankroll to that. Me as as an entrepreneur, young into the game of virtuality, we aren't looking for 10, 20, 50, 80,000 people just right yet, but we'd like to grow in that market. So who's talking about that? Is anyone talking about that?
They are.
What's
I've already done 2 interviews on that.
awesome?
Because it's really important that artists understand where things are going, because you have to prepare some things for that.
Mhm.
I owned a virtual platform. Everybody was an avatar. Did that for a year. We were just too ahead of our time. We were licensing it, so we just didn't renew the license. But we had concerts on there, and we could have, and we had major concerts scheduled to be on there. It was the barrier to entry for like the level of computer that you had to have to make it work and everything, just made it impossible. But the way it worked was phenomenal. The sound was great. Everybody was an avatar, and you could, if you had your avatar as the artist on the stage, you can see everybody dancing. You can see everybody applauding. I mean, it was real life, but in avatars. And so it's happening. There's no question it's happening. That it's out there. They're just, they've got to get it so that the computers are all mainstream, that the broadband, everybody has enough broadband, and that, those platforms get streamlined so they're not quite as intensive resource wise.
Mhm.
But it's happening. That's what they're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're trying to be right at the forefront of that, and we're super excited to see that launch and get out there. Stepping back to Cartney, is Cartney going to be a free service, or is it going to be a paid for service?
So the scams videos will all be free. Okay. I think it's just critical that everybody gets that. It'll be $10 a month to have access to all the other content. And then I'm looking at probably a $20 a month level if people wanted to have the live events where we'll have the speakers come on and do a workshop or just do a meet and greet and stuff like that. And we'll do contests and everything like that. So, turning it into a community that learns together. And so, I think that is going to be very accessible to everybody. And then, I'm looking at giving college students 50% off if colleges will let me do that. If they'll partner with us and stuff like that, just to make it. I'd rather have 1 million people on there and make very little money from everybody. I've got to pay for editors. I've got to pay for other people doing the interviews. I can't do all 700 interviews. You're talking about,
it isn't
the cost.
easy, Vinny. It isn't easy to do all this. You just go hit record and talk to a camera and put it online, and it doesn't just automatically go for you like it does for my iPhone and to Facebook. I mean, come on.
Well, it could, but if you want the transcript and you want, you want all the fluff taken out, and you want just the meat, and you want the quality that you want, there's a lot to it, and that the production, that's what people are paying for. They're not, the content. If I had my way, I'd get sponsors to pay for it, and it would be free. But the cost of production is prohibitive. Especially, we want to do a lot of on-site recording, which means we've got to have camera crews go out and go to the studio and interview, people on what they do on a daily basis and show it, as opposed to just, having a Zoom call or something like that. So, yeah, and then we want to have setups all over the world. So I want to have a London group that's just covering the London industry, or the European industry, and then one in Australia, and one in China, one in Japan, one in South America, one in Mexico. It just makes sense to have different languages, which I can take what I have and translate it into different languages. That's not a problem. But things are different in every city. Things are different in every country. So if I'm in Austin, Texas, things are very different. The industry is very different there than obviously it is in Seattle or in Nashville, even though they're both very Americana country related. The industry is here. The industry is not there. The clubs are there. And so you have to, this, again, there's no end to what we can do. And a lot of it I would love to be able to do with a live camera crew.
And, it sounds like your growth pattern is kind of along the same lines of what we want the DJ sessions pattern to go along with, because the electronic music industry is different here in Seattle than it may be in LA, New York, right, London, Tokyo. And we want to have those representatives out there and crews on site being able to capture what's happening in real time, right, out there. I can do a lot with a webcam and Zoom, but we want to get back out there and pound the pavement, be on the streets, be in the mix of things, and right, talk to those industry professionals and help that place go. That's what the real premise of the DJ sessions was to help the Seattle artists get online, get streaming, get videos they could share and use in an EPK kind of fashion to say, here's me performing on the show. This is what I look like, rather than sending up an audio mix or recording to a radio station. They could see how they perform, see what their stage presence was like, and say, hey, I'd like to book you, or I'd like to be out there. So that being said, though, out of congratulations on Indie Connect and Cartney. I mean, two amazing platforms. Looking forward to seeing those both. Indie Connect's already there, but Cartney coming to fruition and coming to place. But I wanted to talk with you a little bit about, and I saw you started up something, the CEO of Top 4M Entertainment, a film and TV production company that owns 3 TV channels. You launched this. Is that still, where's the status of Top 4M Entertainment? Actually,
it's on a network that's due to launch. We had all the funding in place, and then COVID hit. But I do own 3 channels. One's a general entertainment channel, one's a business channel, one's all health and wellness shows. So we started, we got everything ready for development. We have all the actors and production companies all lined up and everything. And it was a very unique model in that we would be in a profit share situation on it. And I love the whole model and everything. But yeah, they're going after the funding again now and hoping to launch in September or October. So we'll start with a little bit of licensed content, and by the end of the year, we'll be caught up to production again.
And if there was a certain electronic music show that was looking for syndication, who would we talk to? Maybe we'll talk about that off camera, but no, I mean,
no, we'd love to have something like that. Anybody out there who has, content like that is TV quality, that's the challenge. And, we'd love to talk to them, but I hesitate to talk to people until I know that the platform's actually going to launch on the scale that we expect it to, because that's only one piece of a really, really big puzzle that includes 16 artists going out to tour at schools and talk about social acceptance and stuff like that. And I'm supposed to be managing that entire tour. And that funding went away with all of this as well. And there's a global concert that would be a fundraiser for schools that we want to do, and just stuff like that. It's huge. It takes a lot to put it together. We got it this close, and then everything fell apart. And people said, "Well, what if things happen again and everything?" So there's so much tentativeness in there, but it'll happen.
Yeah. I know that feeling after being in the industry for years, and pitfalls. You get right to a point and a pitfall happens.
Yep.
You get right to a point and pitfall happens. And I think one of my favorite lines is out of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Indy's talking to one of the bad guys in the beginning. Hopefully there's not a spoiler alert there, because that movie's really old. But he says, Indy's like, we were right, or the bad guy says, we were right there, and we were just about to find it. And Indy says, that's right when the ground usually falls out from underneath your feet, and I've had those, but it's about picking yourself up and moving on through those different things, or figuring out, hey, maybe that wasn't the right way to go. Maybe now that I've had to forge a path this way or this way, that's way more beneficial had I gone this way. If I would have been given $1 million at the start of the DJ sessions, I probably would have spent $999,000 on a bunch of stuff I could have learned for free. And I would have been a very expensive mistake, and then sat back and say, okay, now what?
Right. Obsolete technology. I mean, new stuff comes out and it's like, well, this is a whole lot easier. You could do a TV show online now.
Yeah.
You can.
I started in public access and went into broadcast television. And because the barrier to entry was beta cameras. You had to buy beta cameras were not cheap back in early 90s. I mean, it wasn't just something you walked out and said, oh, I can buy a broadcast television quality camera for $1,000.
Right.
You had VHS cameras, you could do that, but they wouldn't take VHS because it didn't meet FCC guidelines.
Right.
So
and now the show's being shot on GoPros that are $500.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's just awesome to see how technology changes. And we always try to stay on top of that technology, be a first mover when anything comes. And again, a resource like Cartney is going to be a huge thing to have for artists. I'm going to promote it. We'll talk about this off show, how we can collaborate together with that. But is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you get going?
As far as knowing about, I think that a lot of people may think that DJs aren't the right fit for Cartney. I want this to be, complete entertainment. I actually see us doing a whole film and TV Cartney as well. But if there's anybody out there in that industry who wants to be interviewed for it, has expertise in there, I would love to meet you and see if there's things, because I do want to serve that community, in a different way than you are, but definitely I want to serve that community. And no matter what you're doing with it, make sure you know all your options, because that's the biggest challenge I find, is that people just don't realize what's out there. And so they try to knock on the doors of the tried and true, and those aren't always the best fit because everybody's doing that. But there are so many different options out there now that I just highly recommend that you learn enough about the industry to know all the options that you have and then make your decisions.
Absolutely. And Vinny, where can people find out more information about Indie Connect and Cartney?
It's pretty simple. IndieConnects.com and Cartney.com. Cartney is due to launch August 1st. And so, we'll be launching with probably about 60, 70 videos to start. And, but you can go there now and see what we're doing. Check out the different video categories and how many different questions we're answering. And the questions that are on there are nowhere near the total of questions that we're going to have. And, there's 300 careers that are listed in there that, we want to identify and talk to people on. But there's no way I can know all the different careers. I've never worked with an orchestra, and there's so many people behind the scenes of an orchestra, for example, that, that's incomplete. And every day people are telling me about different scams and things that I just, there's another one I got to add to it. And some of them are just scary, the way people are finagling things and taking advantage of artists and, or managers, taking.
Just one on social media I'll bring to attention here really quickly is on Instagram. I put something out. I've had to turn off commenting almost on my Instagram post because I use hashtags, and I'll be inundated with, let me help you grow your Instagram. Let me help you grow your Instagram. Let me help you grow your Instagram. And I'm like, and they're I don't know how they're doing it, but I wish I could find whatever they're using to probably auto post and auto comment on my Instagram. I wish I could find that so I could put legitimate comments on people's, hey, if you like that, check out the DJ sessions. If you like that, check out the DJ session. And I don't know if that would be considered a spamming technique or not, but I just find it, I had to turn off commenting because, I'm just getting inundated with those, and they're still coming through private message. Mm-hmm. Like somehow they aren't able to comment and say, promote it here, promote it here, promote it here, promote it here. They will, somehow send me a message and it goes into my spam, and I automatically block them and block their accounts because I know what's going on there. But somebody may not know that. I've been in the industry almost 30 some odd years, and I'm like, yep, I know how that works. Yep.
There's a million tips and tricks to keep yourself safe, to keep yourself from just being overwhelmed and spammed all the time and stuff like that. And I mean, you're never going to cut it all out, but the more you know, the safer you are, the better you can navigate it. Our mantra for Cartney is to make to take the mystery, the guesswork, and the risk out of being an independent artist.
There you go. And yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I mean, that sums it up in a nutshell. There is a lot of guesswork. There's a lot of mystery. And if you're just educated, even on the basics, you'll make much wiser decisions regarding what you do and the people you get involved with.
Here's a question for you before I let you get going. Will there be an affiliate program for Cartney?
Absolutely.
Okay. I figured there would be, because we'll talk about that off camera.
Yeah. Our sponsors, our speakers, but mainly what I put it together for was all of the different nonprofit organizations that would benefit by having, their members be a part of this. And so I will be approaching, the Americana Association, or, just all kinds of music related organizations. And I just want more people to know about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of knowing people, I tried to have the conversation online early 2020 about copyright and why your music was getting struck down from Facebook and YouTube, and why they're never going to pay for the rights to that music because it's not their responsibility, and how DMCA works. And people thought I was being negative online about it, but I was really just trying to educate them.
That's right.
And they're like, why are you going to be a negative person? Why can't you just do it? I'm like, I'm just trying to explain the truth to all of you online. This is why it won't. And it's interesting when you try to go out there and do the good. It's like, I don't believe that. That's not the right way. It's like, this is why it has to, probably why you've chose to have this come from an industry professional.
Right. It's not me. I am not the expert.
Yeah.
I am not. 50 years in the industry. I know a lot. I don't know enough. I don't know as much as anybody who's doing music supervision or copyright law or anything for full-time livings. I know enough to ask the really important questions that people are, have, but I am not smart enough, and I'll never be smart enough to answer all the questions. Not until I've done all the interviews and studied them all.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that I had to learn with my baby, with my project, is that I couldn't know all that. That's the one thing I think when I went to school, get an education, I was going to school to learn how to run a company. I was not going to school to become the lawyer or the doctor. I go to a lawyer. I wasn't going to school to become the accountant. I learned to talk with the accountant. I learned to understand what the lawyer was saying. I learned what the doctor was saying to me, I guess.
Exactly.
But I was never going for that. I wanted to be the entrepreneur. And then kind of be like, now let me make the best informed decisions that I can make based off the information that I have, and being able to comprehend what I'm being told, and not be like, I don't like that.
Right. And that's what a business coach would do for you. And that's what I do for artists. And that's what Cartney will do for artists on a smaller level.
Awesome. Well, Vinny, thank you so much for coming on the DJ Sessions
today.
Thank you.
This has been
We're going to follow up with you and be talking with you more about this. And I look forward to a lot of stuff, what's going on over there with Cartney. And thank you again for coming on the DJ Sessions.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Yep. On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Meta, all those fun socials out there. They're all available. Oh, and check us out on Spotify now. Our video podcasts are up there on Spotify. That's right. Go to thedjsessions.com. I'm your host, Darren. That's Vinny Ribas coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington for the DJ Sessions presents the virtual sessions. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.